why they were TI4 champions.
Right on. And Winter, what about Team Empire? Not looking so strong yet, going into halfway point of the group stages, and MVP Hot 6 also having some trouble finding their footing here at TI5.
I think Team Empire has an issue that Team Secret and Team EG, they didn't have it. Because if you look at the first series, I think Team Secret and Team EG showed why they are the strongest teams in the whole pack because of how quickly they adapt and they fix problems. They ran into issues in the first day. And it just took them like one day or maybe even the second series, they immediately fixed their problems. Whereas you look at teams like Empire and teams like IG, when they have a rough series, the next series you don't see as much improvement in them. Whereas they maybe need a longer time, maybe a day, the next day they would be able to fix certain problems. But for Secret and EG, when I look at their games and their first series and I compare the games on the same day, there's a lot of improvements in drafts and in playstyle within the first day itself. So I think that's something worth noting, that how fast they adapt and fix their problems.
That's a really good point. Hopefully we see more of that today as we go forward. And again, something to look forward to between our very first match, LGD and Secret. But before we go into day 3, of course, I mean, day 1 was packed with exciting games, but day 2 was no letdown. We have some highlights from defining moments of day 2. The very first one is in C9 versus Fnatic. And this, I mean, more than anything, just showing that C9, they definitely started the day a lot better than they did on day 1.
Yeah, they went back to a couple of their comfort picks for Fata. This game, we're going to see his Dragon Knight. The game before this was his Beastmaster, and they also go for the support Pugna. Or in this case, actually, it was an offlaner for Bone 7, I think, in this particular game. And yeah, they definitely stepped up their game. It seemed like they were like, okay, guys, yesterday was a bad day. We need to shift gears. We are aiming for the top 4 spot in the group stage. So today we have to peak, and so far so good.
Yeah, this was a matchup we discussed quite heavily yesterday as the day kicked off, just on if Fnatic gets that lead. I mean, they rolled over Secret in the early game. If they can do it against Secret, they can definitely pull off against C9, but C9 didn't let that happen. Got those 3 points rather that they needed to kick off. Definitely a pretty sick moment in the early half of yesterday's games. We'll see that right here as we see C9 going up against Secret. And we have a nice little steal from Rubik here. Rubik getting that RP.
Kuroki is incredible when it comes to positioning with his Rubik. He's, you know, this is something I was talking about yesterday when it came to, I think that was actually what I was talking about, Cloud9 compared to teams like Secret and EG, how Secret and EG are just that bit better at thinking one step ahead. And you just see, it's also something I think S4 has said in, I think he said in an interview that the way they play and the way they approach the game before they do, and they prepare for it. So in this case, what's the worst thing that can happen? We're clumping up in Roche, we get RP'd. What's our counterplay? We put Rubik outside, we let them RP us, because then we turn that bad play into a good play for us, and bait C9 into a bad position.
Right on. And as we're talking about that, we go forward. We had a couple, 2 games of Techies yesterday, and Complexity just completely dominating with Techies against IG. We saw some of these highlights yesterday. Quite a few kills with those mines. Winter, what are your thoughts on Techies already having such a high count in TI5 so far?
I think for this game, it's particularly effective because IG had so many melee heroes. That's like a huge thing. Like against Techies, you want to have the right heroes to demine or destroy his mines around the map, and his remote mines and the land mines as well.
Oh!
But usually you see either illusion-based heroes or like Zeus, for example. But they have nothing in their lineup that deals with mines as well.
Yeah, and this is a scene we talked heavily about yesterday, Ben. I mean, here we have the Enchantress, you know, whether it was premeditated or not, kind of baiting them into a fight, and we do have Secret.
I really like Arteezy's move at this point. It's like he mantas, he 6-2 of the illusions onto the Clinks, and then splits up for the Leshrac so that he can, you know, maximize his damage and make Lesh's decision really difficult as to where to drop his splitter. Anti-Mage seems to be, I would say, the stable carry of choice after Gyrocopter. He's really good versus Leshrac, which some teams actually let through Secret and EG in particular, as well as the Storm Spirit.
All right, and this one, a pretty big moment for MVP Phoenix. They do end up tying 1-1 against Fnatic. So Fnatic, after having that strong showing against Secret, a lot of other teams really trying to focus them down, at least take one game off of Fnatic, keep them at bay. We'll see MVP Phoenix going for a push here. And we didn't get to see this on the mainstream, but again, I mean, a lot of people being pleasantly surprised by a couple of these games from whether it's MVP Phoenix or even MVP Hot 6.
Yeah, they're definitely showing that they can take games off higher rated teams, I guess. Fnatic were definitely a team, if you ask me going into the tournament, I would say they were just flat out 2-0 MVP, but Fnatic have been like day and night in their games, it seems. Like they had that incredible absolute beatdown of Secret, which is the only game Secret has lost, and then they've been on the receiving end against a team like MVP. I think yesterday they went 0-2 against another team where they were really not looking too good. I can't remember which matchup that was. I think we had it on our stream actually.
We'll have to double check on that
It's
one.
eluding me right now, but
Cloud9.
was it Cloud9?
Yeah, they lost.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was
would've
pretty
been-
convincing too from Cloud9. Like it wasn't that close. Maybe game 1 was decent, but game 2 was pretty one-sided.
Yeah, and this is our last clip for day 2. I mean, a very back and forth game between EG and Vici. Of course, at the end of the day, EG being able to pull
This
that
was
one
the
out.
best game from yesterday, if I recall. Like the best series from
Yeah,
yesterday.
this game was incredible. And the series, yeah. Okay.
Glimmer Cape plus Cold Embrace.
Yep. It was probably this was the game with the overall highest level of execution from both teams. So there were, of course, a couple of mistakes here and there, but overall, the way they adapted during fights, the way you could tell they approached fights and how they strategized was really nice to watch. That's definitely the highlight moment of yesterday.
Yeah, and again, only halfway through the group stages, so plenty more to come. As you can see on your screens behind us, we do have the schedule for our very first games of day 3. On stream 3, we will be kicking off with Na'Vi versus Fnatic. Again, two teams really still trying to find their stable footing. Fnatic had a strong showing on day 1, like we discussed. Na'Vi definitely had their shining moments too, but both of these teams kind of being back and forth. We'll see who comes out on top. On stream 2, C9 versus IG. Potential to go a very long game. Could turn out to be one of the more epic games we have in the group stages. But most importantly, here on our stream, on the main stream, we do have Secret versus LGD. So let's dive right into that matchup. I mean, sure, statistically, okay, both teams are number 1 in Group A. They're tied with 10 points. Secret coming in as a strong favorite into TI5, but a lot of people were saying, I don't know, LGD we think definitely can be top 3, at least, at TI5. Winter, what are your thoughts on this matchup, given what we've seen from both teams so far?
I think they have a very big contrast in playstyle. LGD is like what we mentioned before, a lot of 5-man, they want to push. So the hero I would watch out for, if I'm LGD, I would be ready for Keeper of the Light. I think Secret would actually let the Undying to give it to LGD, and they will play a Keeper of the Light to just move the team around and make sure that Undying is very useless in the game. He can't push towers because of Keeper of the Light. Or the other hero, I think it's Ayo, might be contested by both of the teams because both of them play the hero well. But so far we have not seen any Ayo picks from Secret. But obviously they've played it a lot in the past. So I think these are the two heroes that are going to be in contention for the match today.
Yeah, Ben, I mean, overall, we have mentioned Wisp quite a few times on, well, it could work here in this draft or in certain compositions. Hasn't been picked up as many times as we discussed, but what are your thoughts on maybe some of those contention picks, aside from kind of the meta favorites?
I'm curious to see what they're going to do for late gamers. I think LGD is one of the strongest late game teams in Secret. We talked about Secret C9 yesterday. It's like, okay, well, Cloud9 can't really match up for a Secret late game, so they have to go all in early game. LGD, I think, is a little bit of the opposite. I think their best chance might actually be to out late game Secret and try and scale better throughout. And I don't think they're actually going to go for the Undying just because they know that Secret can counter it really well. And I think that's actually Secret's initiative to actually take control of the early game.
Cinder, would you agree with that? Because generally, again, that, like you mentioned, Ben, that's a little bit opposite of what we used to say when Secret has a matchup.
I think it's definitely a scary proposition to go late game against Secret, but I would agree if there's like very few teams here in this tournament that I would say have a good shot against Secret League. LGD is one of them, so I could definitely see that. I want to mention I think Anti-Mage will actually be could become a really important hero in this matchup. It seems to be Secret's go-to hero against this kind of 5-man is that they have Arteezy farming, the other 4 buy time and hold the map and just create space, and then he takes over because when the enemy team is 5-manning, he will naturally out-farm them. So he puts pressure on them to either spread their forces out across the map to counter him or to go for their pushes, and then should they fail, he will just come back strong. So, And it's also a hero for LGD, I think. It could be. If
Right.
they want to play the late game, I think Anti-Mage could definitely be a pick for them as well.
Well, yeah, Anti-Mage overall so far has been the go-to if we want to see a late game carry for many teams at TI5. Draft has already started, ladies and gentlemen, for Game 1 between these two powerhouses in Group A. And Undying being banned out by LGD actually right away, of course, alongside the Naga. And Secret going with the Lesh ban. No big surprise there.
So now they need to decide what they want to give away. So the Undying that we were talking about is not even going to be a thing here. Do you ban Gyro or Tusk? Probably, right? One of them.
Probably not Tusk. I think Tusk is lower on. Okay, they're actually gonna ban that.
I think Yao was actually really good on Tusk in his last game I saw yesterday.
He is.
It's probably his most comfortable.
He played Tusk before it got super popular. So he's one of the forerunners of that. I think you have to ban Naga Siren every game versus Secret, and probably EG too, for that matter, in the first phase. It's just really difficult to counter, BKB or not. It's really difficult to play around, and it's one that most teams can't utilize themselves. So I think that's definitely a hero you want to ban.
And this is interesting to see because we've been talking about during the group stage that teams have prioritized Shadow Fiend less than we thought they would, even on Radiant. And one of those teams has been Secret, who haven't even picked it all tournament, I think. At least I can't remember seeing a single RTZ Shadow Fiend, and now they pick it first phase against LGD, which definitely goes to show that S4 and the whole team definitely had something else planned going in against LGD.
I mean, these two heroes have something very in common that is very good against LGD. They can fight and they can split push side. If they feel they can take the fight towards LGD when they are going to 5-man, Queen of Pain and Shadow Fiend can definitely come and join the fights early, and they can also be used just in case you can't take the fights early. Queen of Pain and SF can also split push, so there's a lot of flexibility in the heroes at what they can do in the game.
I was watching the Team Secret camera and S4 was just cracking up. I was like, what are you possibly thinking? They gave us 12 that was what was